Look closely at your hands. Right now, you are likely holding a smooth piece of glass and metal. It feels completely inert, harmless. You tap the screen, and you assume you are peering out into the world. But the reality of this interaction is entirely backward. The world is peering into you. Every time you open a browser, every time you search for a symptom, a question, or a fear, you leave behind a permanent digital shadow. You might believe your private thoughts are yours alone, but you confess things to a search engine that you would never dare whisper to your closest friends or family. There are invisible architects, vast and silent networks that know you better than you know yourself. They track your hesitations. They record what you type and delete. They monitor exactly how long you linger on a photograph. For years, we were told the internet was a vast, neutral library of human knowledge. You ask a question, and a machine simply retrieves the best answer. But that library is highly curated, and the librarian has a motive. Dr. Robert Epstein, a Harvard-trained psychologist, spent years studying how these platforms quietly condition human behavior. He discovered a phenomenon known as the search engine manipulation effect. When you search for a topic, whether it is a medical condition, a product, or a political candidate, you naturally trust the results that appear at the very top of the page. You assume an objective, impartial algorithm placed them there.
But Epstein found that by subtly reordering those exact results, tech giants can shift the opinions, beliefs, and voting preferences of millions of people. Traditional manipulation, like a billboard or a television commercial, is visible, which means you can logically choose to ignore it. This new form of digital manipulation is completely invisible. Almost no one ever realizes it is happening. You walk away from the screen fully convinced that you made an independent choice, completely unaware that a few lines of code guided your mind exactly where it was designed to go. Tech insiders proudly describe their strategy as operating right up to the creepy line, pushing as deeply into your personal psychology and privacy as possible without making you uncomfortable enough to put the device down. This invisible guidance taps into one of your deepest, most primal biological vulnerabilities, your desperate need to belong. Decades ago, behavioral studies like the famous Solomon Asch conformity experiments proved that human beings will actively deny their own physical reality just to agree with a group. If everyone else in a room gives the wrong answer, your brain will pressure you to conform simply to avoid the pain of social exclusion. Today, technology companies weaponize this exact conformity bias on a massive global scale. You are constantly placed in a digital room surrounded by an artificial crowd. The algorithms study your behavior and curate a feed that echoes your own beliefs back to you, creating a powerful, manufactured illusion of consensus. You become trapped in an echo chamber, fully convinced that your carefully filtered view of the world is the absolute truth, while growing increasingly isolated from anyone who lives in a different algorithmic reality. But conformity is merely the foundation. To truly capture and harvest your attention, the system requires something far more intense than simple agreement. It demands your outrage. In the physical world, face-to-face interactions have evolved social mechanisms to keep cruelty and hostility in check. You can see the pain on someone's face when you insult them. But the digital realm completely strips away those natural boundaries. As clinical psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson has pointed out, anonymous, consequence-free environments empower what psychologists call the dark tetrad personality types, individuals driven by narcissism, manipulation, and sadism. Normal people, when anonymized and placed behind a screen, are far more likely to let the darkest parts of their character run wild. Because the algorithms are entirely blind to morality, they do not differentiate between healthy communication and toxic chaos. In fact, they highly reward the chaos. The system learns that content triggering your brain's threat detection network, content that makes you angry, disgusted, or terrified, will keep your eyes locked on the screen much longer than content that brings you peace. This is why your daily feed often feels like a constant, inescapable state of emergency. You are subjected to an endless stream of manufactured panic. Misinformation thrives in this environment because it relies heavily on the appeal to emotion. It preys on your immediate fears to bypass your logical filtering. Researchers at MIT confirmed this terrifying reality when they found that fabricated news spread 6 times faster than the truth on platforms like Twitter. It is not an accident that you feel emotionally exhausted and drained after a session of infinite scrolling. Your nervous system is being hijacked by a business model that treats your outrage as its most profitable commodity. Over time, this relentless state of overstimulation fundamentally alters how you value your own identity. You have been subconsciously conditioned to seek validation through a fragile system of digital metrics: likes, retweets, view counts. These short-term signals of approval conflict entirely with genuine self-worth. You post an image of your life, carefully curated to project an illusion of perfection, and then you sit and wait. The neurological circuit involved in wanting and seeking that approval is incredibly powerful. But when the validation finally arrives, it is strangely hollow. You are left continuously swiping, craving more, yet never feeling truly satisfied. This addiction to artificial approval has sparked a modern epidemic of profound digital loneliness. Behavioral experts like Jonathan Haidt have extensively documented this crisis, revealing a staggering increase in severe anxiety and depression among young people that directly correlates with the widespread adoption of social media. A generation is being raised to constantly compare themselves to impossible, filtered standards. And the pain of failing to meet those standards is not just an illusion in your mind. Neuroscientists have discovered that the human brain processes social rejection using some of the exact same neural pathways as physical pain. When you feel ignored or left out online, your brain registers it as actual physical trauma. You are feeling a deep biological sense of rejection simply because you failed to capture the algorithm's attention. You are living in an era where your attention is no longer your own. It is harvested, packaged, and sold to advertisers. They do not sell you products. You are the product. Your time, your fears, your desires, and your psychological profile are the raw inventory. As a result, the simple act of sitting in a quiet room, entirely alone with your own thoughts, has become almost unbearable for the modern mind. The moment you feel the slightest hint of boredom, silence, or discomfort, you instinctively reach for the glowing screen. You seek comfort in the exact machine that is causing your underlying anxiety. But understanding this architecture of control is your absolute greatest defense. Psychological researchers refer to this as inoculation, the idea that if you understand the specific techniques being used to manipulate you, you can build cognitive resistance, and those techniques instantly lose their power over your mind. The entire system relies on your blind participation. The platforms need you to react on autopilot. They need you to trust the customized search results, to fear the manufactured outrage, and to endlessly crave the hollow validation. The moment you pause, you disrupt their algorithm. You can begin to consciously notice the subtle ways the screen demands your focus. You can feel the tension in your jaw when a headline is deliberately trying to make you angry, and you can intentionally choose not to engage. You can recognize that the outrage is engineered and the perfection is an illusion. You can reclaim the quiet spaces in your life. You do not have to live as a predictable data point in a vast surveillance economy. You can choose to step back, to embrace the silence, to look at the physical people right in front of you, and to rebuild your reality completely outside of the digital frame. But perhaps, what do you think?